As a domestic violence shelter navigates funding challenges, a local bank is stepping in to help. Our Chase Campbell has more.
Tuesday, the People's Bank Foundation donated $10,000 to Eve Incorporated, presenting the check at the downtown Marietta People's Bank branch. According to Eve Executive Director Trina Radizak, the local support is invaluable, coming at a time when the shelter faces delays and instability with the federal and state grant dollars that make up the bulk of its budget.
This state of nonprofit funding is pretty insecure right now, and funding's went down a lot, which has also contributed to a little bit of our structure right now. So I think that overall, nationwide, locally, everywhere, is seeing a drop in nonprofit funding also.
The donation will go towards Eve's operations, helping to provide myriad services for people who are survivors of domestic abuse, as Radizak explains.
Well, we're a 24-hour domestic violence shelter. We serve people that are also sexual assault victims, human trafficking victims. We offer shelter, counseling, outreach services. We do hospital advocacy. If someone has experienced sexual assault at the hospital, we send someone there to sit with them through the process. We help people find housing after they're coming out of tough situations. We do so many things.
Eve Board President Jill Deming emphasizes that they provide some services that can't be found anywhere else in the region.
We can have 25 women and children, but the key is that we also can house men. And so we are one of the only domestic violence shelters in Ohio that is equipped to handle men and teenage boys as well, so they don't have to leave their mother.
People's Bank Vice President of Treasury Management Sandy DeLong says the bank is glad to support a critical local organization.
That's one of our core values here at People's Bank, and one of our pillars is our commitment to the communities, and it's really instilled in every single employee. And Eve has always been a cause that I believed in over the years, their mission and what they do. So we definitely want to support, especially when they're in need at this time, to keep the shelter open in this market area.
Eve accepts monetary donations, as well as donations of frequently used items like paper towels and toilet paper. Donations can be made online at eveshelter.com, by phone at 740-374-5820, or via mail to P.O. Box 122, Marietta, Ohio 45750. In Marietta, Chase Campbell, WTAP News.